You had a choice between Singapore and Pune,
Yes.
and it was a tough decision.
One of the main things, right? The Singapore passport is the most
Very
powerful passport in the world.
I started drawing as well at some point of time, but not very well. And somewhere about 3-4 years into my job, and I was like, I discovered this folder with my old unfinished drawings. I was like, this is not bad. Maybe I could do this. For me, there is this whole accidental discovery of things that happens, right? This whole serendipity.
If you missed 1 year, that means you screwed up somewhere, somebody fired you, etc. It's almost like you're messing up your career by doing it.
So, what do you think was the difference between the two versions of you? One that was tired of corporate life, one that's now back in it now.
The Pineapple Podcast is back with a bang. Today's guest, Karthik Parthasarthi, left a very comfortable and cushy job in the island state of Singapore after graduating in Nanyang of all places to return to India as a graphic novelist in a time where not many people took that path. Today, as product head in Tata Digital, he reflects back on his illustrious journey, including product management, a role which today a lot of people inspire to get into. Tune in for the full story. Welcome to Pineapple Podcast in a new venue, completely all nicely lit up. Oh, do you see these nice appenditures out here? Now, who fixed them? Very depicting of us in this new setting. We have a very special guest today, Karthik, who did his undergraduate in Singapore, lived there for quite a while. So, Karthik, let me lead with this. A lot of people like Singapore. They get so used to the culture. It's such a nice place to live in. And then you move back to India. Against the tide of Indians who are moving abroad, you went and then you moved back. Just wanted to understand, was it a tough decision to make moving back, or did you not like your life in Singapore? Tell us more about.
Before you answer this question, since you are foreign educated, did you know these were called appenditures?
No. This is the first time.
Appenditures.
I wasn't going to say anything. But also, Mario's Malaysian, and I have the Singaporean influence, and there's a bit of a thing between Malaysia and Singapore, right? Always.
Please feel free to beat him up. Feel free. Absolutely free.
Thanks for having me here. I have not been on a podcast before of this kind, so it is an absolute joy, and I'm looking forward to this exploration adventure, whatever you want to call it.
Have you always been in Singapore?
No, I went there from undergrad after my 12th. So
Nanyang as...
Yeah. So I grew up in Chennai. And after finishing 12th, I went to Nanyang. And the story there is that I had a choice between going to Pune to do law or going to Singapore to do engineering. And the deadline for Singapore was sooner. So I said, okay, I'll go to Singapore. If I don't like it, I'll come back and do law.
You had a choice between Singapore and Pune.
Yes.
And it was a tough decision.
I wasn't really convinced of the whole engineering thing. So I was like, yeah, maybe I could be a lawyer. Now I wish I had been a lawyer.
Why?
Because those guys are minting money.
In India?
Yeah.
I did not know lawyers are making...
I see them outside courts, and it always looks like they're coming to us for business. It seems more like a seller's market rather than a buyer's market.
You could be right. At least the few lawyers that I do know. And for some reason, I seem to keep attracting a lot of lawyers, right? Like, every time I meet new people, they're like, I'm a lawyer. I'm like, what kind of a lawyer are you? And they're like, usually it's stats or something. Like, not one criminal lawyer amongst the lot, so I feel like I can't use this bunch. I can't leverage my acquaintances as much as I'd like to. Similarly, every time I meet doctors, it's never the kidney or the lung doctors that I'm probably, or a liver doctor that I'm eventually going to need, right? So yeah, I think there's a cosmic joke at play here. I'm never going to meet the people that I actually might need in future.
Yeah, Exhibit A. You went to Singapore?
Yeah.
You've been in Singapore for how many years now?
No. So the way it goes is the choice I had was law in Pune versus engineering in Singapore. I went to Singapore thinking if I don't like it, I'll come back. But we had a bunch of Indian students there and whose job was essentially to rag us.
What year is this?
This was back in 2000.
2000, okay.
And and this was kind of like I won't call it an institutionalized thing, but it was something that had been in force for the last few years, and it's a good thing, right? Because you feel very homesick when you're there and all of that, and this was kind of to help you get over that process. And that went on for a month, and by the time I realized that maybe I don't want to be here, the Pune deadline had already closed. So I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to be an engineer. So I was in Singapore for about 9 years
You did engineering in?
in electrical engineering in NTU.
Okay.
And so that was 4 years of my Singapore stint. And then I worked there for about 5 years after. And then I decided to come back here because at some point of time I was like, maybe there's something outside of all this corporate stuff. So I decided I wanted to be a graphic novelist.
You were going to be a graphic novelist.
Yeah. I decided I'm going to take time off to write and illustrate a graphic novel. And Singapore was too expensive to stay there for that. Rents were too high and whatever. So I said, okay, I'm going to come back to India to do that. And I'm going to stay at my parents' house and work on this for a year, 2 years, however long it takes. And my parents were like, okay, on two conditions. One is you join a gym, you're very fat.
Wow.
Yeah, I was about 103 kilos at that point of time. And I was like, okay, all right, I can do that. And then the second condition was you write your GMAT or whatever so that this is kind of time bound and at the end of it, you have a path out of this. I was like, all
Very
right.
nice to you. I would have thought there would be three conditions, right? Go to a gym, write a GMAT, and you should agree that we'll put your profile on tamilmatrimony.com. So, fine, okay, two is not bad.
That happened later.
But before that, so you could have done all this from Singapore itself, right? So why did you need to move back to Chennai? I'm quite sure there were a lot of opportunities like this in Singapore. And given the fact that you were there for so long, what was the need to pick up everything there where you're so well established and come back to it?
I basically wanted to do this full time. And Singapore, as you know, is a very expensive place. At that time, it was even more expensive than Bombay with respect to rents and all that. I think that's kind of changed now, depending on where you want to stay. So it just seemed easier at that point of time to pick up and leave Singapore. And also the thing is, Singapore is a small island.
Yeah.
That most people I know stay there for maybe 3-4 years and they use it as a base to travel around, etc., and make some money. But very few people, unless they're really looking at Singaporeans or people who are looking for a safe place to have a family, and a safe and a balanced, secure place to have a family, low crime, good schools, all that sort of a thing, and of course a Singaporean passport so that they can travel a lot easier without visas and all of that. Those seem to be the biggest motivators for at least amongst my circle of acquaintances to stay in Singapore.
Yeah, so that's one of the main things, right? The Singapore passport is the most powerful passport in the world.
Is that the most powerful?
It's number one or number two. You can
almost get visas to 130 countries without a visa.
Yeah.
I don't know if there are 130 countries that I'd want to travel to, but the option is there.
So let me go a little deeper on this. So you came out of Chennai, which is back then quite orthodox, and you were put into a Singapore college, right? So there must have been a big cultural difference between Chennai and Singapore. You're mixing with only Tamilians around, and now you're in Chennai, and now you're in Singapore, where there's Chinese, there's Malays, there's Indonesians. The college in Singapore is multiracial, right? So how did you?
Chennai wasn't really that as parochial as you.
In 2000?
No, it was. I mean, I guess other cities like Bombay and Bangalore had much more of a reputation of being more cosmopolitan, etc. But Chennai wasn't that bad. And frankly, my school was pretty cosmopolitan then.
Which school were you?
It was this place called Vidya Mandir in Mylapore. And I guess my parents' circles were also fairly cosmopolitan that way, so it didn't feel like too much of a shift. But yeah, I mean, I was thrown into this milieu of people whose language that I didn't necessarily understand, whose accents were strange, whose food was strange. And till that point of time, I was also a vegetarian, proper orthodox. I won't call it an orthodox upbringing, but a fairly conservative upbringing, I would say. And so I went to Singapore and had to meet all these people. Yeah, there was a warming up period, I guess, a period of getting used to and trying to think that the food does not smell of sewage. But yeah, I got over it. But I did lose like 12 kilos in that first term that I was in Singapore. So yeah, there was that.
He lost 12 kgs just like that. I mean, maybe you can take a hint. Just go to Singapore, you lose 12 kgs.
Please zoom in on his paunch. Yeah. Continue.
Yeah.
Please. So what's your favorite dish in Singapore, if you can think back?
Chicken rice, man. The Hainanese chicken.
Jasmine rice.
Sorry?
Jasmine rice?
No, it's rice that's cooked in chicken broth. And then you have 15 pieces of chicken.
So, you know, I was in Singapore just about a year ago. And one thing I like about Singapore is, like you said, security. Any place you walk, even at night, is well lit up. And you have all these eateries. You can just walk into them. They're open air and you can, it's like a food court and you can just pick up.
Why did you move back, bro, if you love it so much?
You should have was Singapore. It's like he says,
He's so disappointed that you moved back from Singapore.
Look, honestly, I like KL better than I like Singapore
Oh,
because
now why did you say that?
because KL is like Singapore with, may I say this, a stick removed from its ass. Can I say that? I'm sorry, I don't know if I'm okay to say that.
Less drama.
We'll check the comments later, but you should be okay.
No, KL is very chilled out, right? It's like,
I like it. I've been to KL 3-4 times now, and I love it. I would go again any day.
So there's this one library in, I took Krishna to, and when we were in KL last time, they have a branch in Singapore too. It's called Kinokuniya.
oh yeah, I love Kinokuniya.
Amazing library. We've been there.
It's not a library, it's a bookstore. But
It's a big, so you're right.
I was about to wonder, why were you saying library?
It's a bookstore, sorry. You just sit and go on for hours.
yeah, for the longest time, it used to be like the largest bookstore in Asia or something like that. I don't know if that's been surpassed, but it's massive.
Yeah, now it's Dharavi. So you come back, you decide, okay, enough is enough. You want to get into the tech side of business. You were working in Shell.
I was working in Shell and then Procter & Gamble.
Procter & Gamble.
For Shell, I was in supply chains.
Okay.
And in Procter & Gamble, I was, it was called an initiative planner, but it was sort of a project manager for go-to-market of new products. I was taking care.
Sorry, you came back to be a graphic novelist. I forgot.
graphic novelist.
So tell us about that. What happened there?
So I started working on that. So I was at home and it was actually, I think the hardest I've ever worked, right? You know, because I was setting my own direction, spending time trying to write stories that, which I thought were interesting. And learning to draw, because while I was interested in comics, I'd never bothered to learn to draw. And
How difficult is it to learn to draw?
I don't know. I mean, you have icons or you have aspirations of looking like Tintin or Asterix or, I mean, since then, of course, there have been...
Was this something you had always wanted to do as a kid, or it just came back one day and like, yeah, I left that?
In college, while I was at NTU, right, you know, we had to do all these extracurriculars and stuff. And I was part of the student newsletter, right? And there I introduced a cartoon. Me and a friend of mine used to contribute to that. So I used to come up with ideas and he used to draw. And we did that for a while. Not that anybody got our gags. And when I look back at it now, it was not very good, not very funny.
Okay.
It's one of those things where, like, you guys sat around drinking late at night and like, oh yeah, that's funny. We should do something. We should put that in the newsletter. And when you have absolute power of what goes into the newsletter, you're like, okay, fine. Yeah, why not? And yeah, so we did that. And then I started drawing as well at some point of time, but not very well. And somewhere about 3-4 years into my job, and I was like, I discovered this folder with my old unfinished drawings. So I was like, you know, this is not bad. Maybe I could do this.
And this folder had drawings from you at what age?
In 3-4 years before.
Only 3-4 years. Okay.
Maybe around 2003, 2004. And I was looking at this at like around 2006, 2007. And so I thought, okay, maybe I could do this. And the more I thought about it, I was like, I hate my job. I'd like to try this. Now was the time to do it. And so, and I was also doing a lot of other extracurricular stuff on the side, right? A friend of mine and I, he'd done this experiment before, but we thought we'd try and take it commercial. And it was essentially this series of parties. We called it the in parties.
Okay.
With, you know, it was like, the logo was like IN in, you know, like square brackets parties. And the idea was we'd have these theme parties. We'd take a bar. We'd have these themes, which were usually words that started with the letters IN, like innuendo, incognito, in honor of our glorious leader, Kid George. That was a fun ball. And we had all these friends who were like artists who would like, you know, create custom art for that on those themes. And there'd be art on the walls, there'd be live bands, like a flea market environment, atmosphere.
In an open area, or you would rent a bar?
A bar. And it was usually a tiny bar, maybe about the size of this space, mediums.
You bought this bar, you rented this
We
bar?
rented.
Okay.
The bar owners were friends of ours. So,
Okay.
Right. So we come to an arrangement like, okay, percentage of it, a percentage of it, that sort of thing. And we did this about once a month.
Okay.
We didn't lose any money doing it. And this was happening on the side. And I was meeting all these artists and what you would call the seedy underbelly of Singapore, if Singapore has a seedy underbelly. So, yeah, and I was very encouraged, right? Like, hey, yeah, maybe I could do this. And so more and more the thought grew, and I was like, okay, I'm kind of done with this whole corporate thing, at least for now. So I said, okay, then how do I work this out? Okay, how do I pay rent? Do I do this part-time? Do I try and, can I actually switch to being a freelancer and so on and so forth? Went through all those thoughts. And I finally decided if I want to do this seriously, I probably should move back to India to do it.
See, this is in
Time I took a couple of detours.
Both of us are stuck in the same point. No, because you created that group, you had a connect there,
Right.
but you decided to come to India where you don't. Did you know people in India? Artists and stuff you knew in India?
I'd say 2-3 degrees of separation.
Okay. Was that what you were going to ask?
No, I was going to ask something else, but continue this line. So you were actually hustling way back then, right? This is what we call hustling. You have a day job, what you're doing, and then you're doing this on the side, right?
Yeah, but this was never really going to make very.
But you were spending, you were burning dollars for this. So at some point of time, you wanted this to take off. So where I'm coming at is, back in the 2000 era, hustling was like a no. It's like if your parents knew you were hustling, they'd be like, you have a day job. What are you hustling for? Your day job, get a job, get married, get a house, and then bring out children who do the same, right? So that used to be the idea back then. So in today's world, it's okay for us to have a day job and hustle on the side and do a whole bunch of things. Back then, that wasn't the norm. So was that the norm in Singapore back then? That
I can hustle because I'm married. I've already pushed out kids. When I say I have helped in the process. And now I'm hustling on the side. So you speak for yourself.
Yeah, I speak for myself.
No, I don't know that there was any norm that I was going against. It was just, here's what I want to do. This seems fun. I'm going to do it. And it wasn't really detracting from my daytime job or anything at that point of time, right? Like because I had a solid drinking habit where I'd work till like 7 or 8, hit the bar with my friends, be out till like 12:31, go for a snack, and by the time I get home, it's like around 3 o'clock or whatever. And for doing this every day, like, okay, maybe I could also make money while doing this, so why not do this party thing? And we got to meet a lot of interesting people. And at one point of time, it looked like it could take off. We actually had interest from some brands who wanted to collaborate with us at that point of time. But one of the friends was actually working for a company that was in the entertainment space, so it was a conflict of interest, so we never could really take it up.
Years. Okay. So you're back in India.
So yeah, I've been back in India since 2009. I took a couple of detours before I came here.
Wait.
So just when I was about to leave Singapore, a friend of mine said, hey, you like writing, right? So why don't you come and write for my TV production company?
Okay.
And so this guy was a documentary filmmaker, and he'd been contracted to sort of run a TV talk show. So this was a show that was, so I'm not going to take any names here. So there was this person who was a senior person who was in Disney, and he'd always wanted to have a talk show of his own. So when he was exiting, he decided he would commission that and use his connects to kind of get it on air. And it played on Star World in Southeast Asia. It didn't come to India. And so my friend was the producer. He said, okay, why don't you come and write for me? And I was like, okay, all right. I'm doing this exploration thing anyway. So yeah, I'll give it a try. Never been in this industry, so it'd be fun. So I did that. So went and wrote some comedy sketches and stuff like that. So the idea was that it would be sort of like Jay Leno or Letterman sort of a thing with an opening monologue and guests and all of that. But turns out the comic timing, at least with respect to the sketches, wasn't quite there. So the format pivoted to just pure interviews.
Okay.
And then I was doing some back-end stuff like researching the kind of topics and so on and so forth. And also securing rights for, and I was also in charge of like finding music performances and all of that. Where again, this network that I built up through in-parties kind of came into play. So all the musicians that I knew from there, like, hey, come on over to my show kind of thing.
Yep.
So that's fun. So did that for about 4 months and even got like a couple of, I think, was it assistant producer or associate producer credits? I can't remember, but
Nice.
yeah. So did that. And then I moved back to India to start working on my graphic novel.
Okay.
Which I did for about 2 years. And, sent it out to publishers, all of that. Got a couple of approaches. In fact, even got a contract, which I never got around to signing because when I got back to them with clarifications after speaking to one of my many lawyer friends that I talked about. One time, two times in my life, I've actually had to use them, right? And they were like, "Oh, you should ask these questions, and what about these rights, and this and that." So got back. Then never really heard back from them. And I did meet up with the editor-in-chief about a year later, when I'd gone to Dharamshala with a friend. And on the way back, we stopped in Delhi. And so I just called this lady's office and said, "Listen, I'm going to be in Delhi for exactly 5 hours. Do you want to meet me or not?" They're like, "Yes, absolutely." So I went to met them. And they're like, "Oh, yeah, we still paying all of that. Some more questions here and there. Do you want to customize the school? Do you want to localize your thing, throw in some colloquialisms and stuff like that?" I was like, "No, that's not really where I'm going with this." And so ultimately nothing very much happened with the graphic novel.
Yet.
So except it was a line on my resume. Wrote and illustrated a graphic novel to be published by XYZ in 2011. And then next year I made that it published in 2012, in 2013. So that happened for a few years. And it helped me. It was always a talking point in job interviews and even in my ISB interview after that, right?
So are we going to dig these scrolls up one day, known as the unpublished graphic novels of
Might
Karthik
happen.
Parthasarathy?
Might
So
happen.
how do you intend to, let me choose my words carefully, eventually get it out to someone? Is it still a work in progress? Or?
So I'll tell you what happened with that, right? So this happened, and then I applied to B schools and everything. I'd completed this, and meantime, the person I'd been talking to, the publisher, left that company, went to somewhere else, even changed industries, all of that. And so I thought this was kind of on pause, and I went to B school, got back into the corporate world, joined Cognizant as a product manager, and was in Cognizant for 9 years. And meantime, when I revisited this graphic novel, I was like, what a load of twaddle this is. This is absolutely not what I don't think anybody would want to read this. I mean, I created something that I was capable of creating at that point of time, but it wasn't really something that I myself want to read. It's not entertaining. It is self-indulgent. You think some things are funny, but it's not. But then, of course, I saw what was actually coming out in terms of what was being published at that point of time, Chap and Bhagat. And all of that, I was like, and friends of mine were like, "No, you really shouldn't be this self-conscious about this. When you should just put it out there, let it take on a life of its own. It's out of your hands now." So no, that's not really how I operate. So I went through a few more iterations of trying to change things and whatever. Made some connections and, kind of scooched up, got to a point where I was like, I'm not entirely ashamed to put this out there. But still, it was like, I've got a day job now and all of these things. So I didn't really pursue too hard. But there's this thing called Indie Comics Fest, right? Which goes to multiple cities. And it's a qualifier, like we compare it to something like Comic-Con and all of that.
Yeah.
Right, which is like full blown and commercial and merchandising, T-shirts, all of that. Yeah. This is for $500. You could set up a stall, and it's all artists. It's got this very communal atmosphere. So I did that a couple of times. I took out.
Which city was this?
This is Bombay and Bangalore.
Okay.
So this was back in around 2016, 17 or 18, I think, around that time. So I took out like a couple of chapters, which I thought was like not as much twaddle as the rest of it, not as self-indulgent. So I kind of found a printer here, got it printed out, and took it to them and tried to sell a few copies. I did, and it was really fun interacting with a lot of people, a lot of other artists, and I think whatever I made that day, I ended up buying other people's stuff with that. So it wasn't really profitable, but it was fun.
So you had a nice ending. Eventually it had So today I'm guessing if you were to publish the same thing today, and I'd like your take on this, because from what I understand, 10 years ago, it was tough to publish anything. You had to get into discussion with, publishers and rights, and they had to review it. Today you can write something tonight, and you publish it on Amazon in like a day or two. The bar has dropped so much. You just have so much stuff out there.
Yeah, getting stuff out there is easy.
Yeah.
Right? But if you have ambitions of making money off it, making a living off it, now that I think is just as hard now as it was earlier.
Or maybe more, because there is so much stuff flooding the
There is just so much noise. But you think of it as the long tail, right? Like if you can kind of find the people with exactly the same interests, same kinks, and whatever else as you, it's actually not that hard to find them anymore. And you have a following for life. Maybe all you have to do is keep feeding that dragon.
Yeah. I'm very tempted to go off on this tangent. Just humor me on this.
Absolutely.
So whatever you were doing like 10, 12 years ago, people could get done with generative AI today. They could just generate images out and, just twerk around with them a bit. And has the whole joy of doing that really gone when you can generate something? Or do you think, and people say generative AI makes you more impactful, but then people like you who've got the actual idea to draw and envisage something and put it on paper, that joy of doing that is now taken away. But the promise you're given is you'll be able to do it more impactfully by using these tools. Is that right, in your opinion?
I have mixed feelings about this, right? And so I'm not a seasoned artist. I'm not professional. It's like if I put pen to paper, I don't know what's going to come out. I have an idea of what I want it to look like, but it almost always doesn't look the way it is. And like, this hand looks a little weird. And I'd probably have to change the entire layout depending on what actually comes out, rather than sticking with what I had in mind, right? So for me, there is this whole accidental discovery of things that happens, right? This whole serendipity. Like you set out to do something, but it turned out to be something else. You rolled with it, and it became something even better. And I don't know if that is possible with Gen AI, right? But if I say that, hey, draw a pig on a horseback being chased by a cat, and that's going to come, and I'm going to be like, okay, yeah, that looks like a pig on a horseback being chased by a cat. Okay, that'll do. And I'm going to proceed from there, right? I don't know how serendipity gets into this. Yeah, maybe the algo hallucinates a little and the cat looks more like an elephant.
Or they may draw it in the Mojave Desert.
Yeah. Or the cat has 6 legs and 7 tails and whatnot, and suddenly this becomes a Japanese fairy tale of some kind. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. But as an artist, I'm like, I'm not a very good artist. So if something makes this process easier, one part of me is like, yeah, your input into this whole process is the idea or the gag, so to speak. So if you're not invested in the art turning out a certain way, then why do you care if Gen AI does it for you, or maybe you contract somebody else to do it for you? You have that whole argument of, wait, you're depriving another artist of a commission and so on and so forth. All valid. I don't have an answer on this, right? But I feel mixed. I haven't explored this thought too completely as yet, but I can see the benefits on both sides of it.
You were tired of corporate life. You wanted to get into graphic novels, ISB, and now you're back in corporate life. And you said 9 years in Cognizant.
Yeah, and after that, I've had about 3 years in the Tata organizations.
So what do you think was the difference between the two versions of you? One that was tired of corporate life, one that's now back in it now.
I think the part that was tired of corporate life was idealistic, right? I was in my mid-20s and I was like, it is possible to make a living of art or hustling or whatever it was. And I don't think I made a very informed choice at that point of time. And I'm still happy I did all of that. I'm glad I did. But I guess there was this overconfidence, this cockiness of youth, if you will, which at that point of time I was like, yeah, people are making this happen, I can make it happen too. But once I got into it, I realized here are artists who have trained all their lives, who've gone to school for this, who have notions of color theory and stuff like that, which I have to learn now. And we're talking about a time when you didn't have as many YouTube tutorials and everything else as you do now either. Right? So now I guess what I was faced with was this reality of, okay, you know what, you're going to have to pay your own rent as well. This whole thing of sitting around in my parents' spare bedroom in Chennai isn't going to work for me. It's not what I really want to do in future. So heading back into the corporate world seemed like the natural progression.
This is such an opposite version of the story we usually hear, right? This is the opposite version of the hero story. The hero story is, man, I'm in Singapore, the world is at my fingertips, I'm about to become a corporate honcho, and I left it all behind to pursue a career in art. And look, I've become this wonderful major artist who is this icon. But your story is the other way around. That look, I took that chance. Don't get me wrong. I took that chance, but it's not that that chance is. Your story is one where people realize that taking that chance is not that easy,
Ah.
right? And you still landed on your feet.
Well, I was a mediocre corporate. I became a less than mediocre artist. And then I'm back at being a mediocre corporate now who does mediocre art on the side. So, yeah, I don't think there's been very much movement in terms of the hero's journey of, like rising to great heights and falling to great depths and rising to great heights again.
People taking sabbaticals to pursue something that they think would add meaning to their lives. Where do you stand on that?
I think they should, but they should have a plan about it, right? Like, know how long they want to do it for, know what are the signs that this is working, not working, etc. So that they can get back to what they need to be doing. And also, don't burn your bridges behind you.
Don't burn your bridges is very valid. The give up part, most people, like when you hear the stories, most of them are left with no option but to give up, but still keep persevering, and trying to do something. Like the Van Gogh story, right? Throughout his entire life, he's not done anything. After he died, he started getting recognition, and now his paintings are sold for. Most people don't want that. They want the success while they're living, right?
Yes.
When do you decide that no, okay, let's be sensible, let's go back. This is not yet ready. Either this is not yet ready, and we need to go back, or no, this is not for me. Let's go back. How do you take that decision?
I think reality kind of
Forces you.
that decision on you, right? Like family circumstances, medical bills. I don't know if you want to get married and your in-laws are like, yeah, I don't want to marry my daughter to a starving artist, even if he weighs like 95 kilos and shows no indication of starving anywhere. But yeah.
So back to corporate world.
Yeah. So, one question I had, when you join a tech company, Cognizant, TCS, Infosys, if you're coming in at a certain level, right? If they look at your CV, and if they're hiring you at a senior role, they'll expect you to put in equal experience in the same business that they are in, right? And I'm not sure how it is today, but back in the day, the word sabbatical was not in their dictionary at all. If you missed 1 year, that means you screwed up somewhere, somebody fired you, etc. These days, people, I'm guessing they accept the fact that people do take sabbaticals. Back in the 2000s, it was almost like you're messing up your career by doing it.
Yeah, I don't think anyone I know took a sabbatical in
Back
2000s.
then, right? So how did you break into Cognizant? If they're looking for someone with 8 or 9 years experience, they expect you to have 8 or 9 in core tech, or at least around the same area. But you are coming from a very different place, done very different things, and yet what do they see in you that they deem that you bring value to them? Because they hire straight jacket.
Yeah.
They don't go for the fringe. They don't look outside the bag. So what did you have which they wanted?
I'm going to say 3 things, but there's probably more than 3 things that I'm going to talk about. Firstly, you shouldn't call it a sabbatical,
Okay.
right? Call it freelance experience, call it consulting, call it whatever you want, but don't call it a sabbatical.
Yeah, fair enough.
And it's not that it was throwaway experience, right? I learned core design principles, visual design, how to use positive space, negative space, how to
What's
create
positive
narrative.
space? What's negative space?
Oh, so you have your characters speaking to each other, right? So they are the foreground and there's a background behind them.
Okay.
So that they are the positive space, and the space in between them is the negative space.
Got it.
So essentially, how do you separate it out so that the field doesn't feel too crowded and so on and so forth,
Okay.
right? I'm pretty sure your viewers are like, that's not it at all. This is my take. This is my understanding of it, and this is how I used it. And how to tell a story, how to frame a narrative, how to bring out what you want to do, how to build emotion around a certain narrative. I learned all these things, I mean, not in any what's the word for it, not in any systematic manner, but what I needed to learn, I learned, right? And so it's not like this was throwaway experience that I couldn't use. And when I went back to the corporate world and I was able to express this, and I've done this, And in doing this, what I've learned is how to design, for in an empathetic manner for a user base, right? Based on what they are interested in and how to deliver your message to them. And I can do this succinctly. I can do this colorfully. I can do it in whatever you want to do. Yes, I am going back into a tech company, but not all roles in a tech company are tech. They need designers, they need visual designers, they need storytellers, all of these things. And so that was the first part. Second part, actually, because first part was not calling it a sabbatical. The third part was that I got lucky. This was a campus hire after ISB. And they were recruiting for a new organization that they were setting up, which was, you can say, an entrepreneurial place where they wanted to generate new ideas, take a more product oriented approach. So they were looking for people who kind of thought differently, but also had a sort of a grounding in tech, which I did because I did study engineering. So all of these factors kind of helped me get into Cognizant. And once I was there, I felt right at home.
Would it be too far of a stretch for me to get a takeaway from the story? And the takeaway is, if you are very seriously pursuing an art outside of corporate life, be it music, be it, because we had a musician on earlier, art, music of any kind, and you've really invested some time, that skill is going to translate into your corporate life at some point.
I think it can. I think there are learnings there which can translate, but it's really up to you to kind of join those dots and frame that narrative.
So how did it help you? So you joined Cognizant. What all were you doing in this entrepreneurial space? Intrapreneurial space, yeah. But entrepreneur is within company trying to start something.
Correct.
Okay.
It was sort of like an entrepreneurial cell within the company. And
you were there 9 years, right?
I was in different departments over 9 years. Okay. So this particular department, I was there for about 2-3 years. And we're essentially exploring everything. Right? Like Cognizant was essentially a service company, and still is for most parts. And so essentially we had clients for whom we would do tech development, etc., using various models, fixed bed, time and materials, all of those things. And the idea here was that, can we build something where we have the IP and then we can license it out, like SaaS or something like that. So I was in the mobility space looking at applications for banking. Okay. Like, could we come up with some kind of a no-fuss platform by which banks could set up their mobile banking applications? And I'm talking about, this was about back in 2013.
Yes.
Where something like that didn't
really happen, yeah.
Yeah. And also this was before the whole mobile app explosion. I mean, mobile phones and apps were there, but things were still more on the web front than on the app front. So that's what I was doing for about 2 years. And then I moved into core business development for Cognizant.
All right, we're back. Sorry for a small little break. Our cameras are overheating. The quality of our conversation is clearly so powerful that our cameras overheated and we had to backtrack a little bit. You said you had a present for us.
I did. So we were talking about my graphic novels and cartoons earlier. So what I did was extracted the best part of them out and made them into these novelty deck of playing cards, which I called
Pack of Lies? What's supposed to be?
Yellowpanel.in. Is that your company?
Yes, but I don't think I have the domain still. But I do have an Instagram account called yellowpanel.in _in. And
Oh, these are fantastic. Playing cards, but they're actually characters on them.
Yes, there's a single panel cartoon on each of them. And
there's a Joker. What did you do with the Joker?
What person in a suit here?
Look at this.
So the idea originally was that each suit represents a certain kind of humor. Like hearts would be things reflecting passion, love, and things like that. And diamonds is like witticisms, wordplay.
Okay.
Clubs would be...
What did the number 6 ever do to you?
Nothing.
This is dark, dude. The like woman on top of a fire roasting a chameleon while a tyrannosaurus is eating her husband.
No, that's a guy drawing cave paintings. Like they're eating lizards, but he's drawing hunting dinosaurs.
Oh, I think this card was done specifically for you. It's
Show the camera, bro. How are they going to?
It's an A of Hearts. It says It's an A of hearts and it says, I have this thing for 6-footers. I think that's meant for you.
Hey, a card of what Mario was doing today morning. The dog with next to a lamppost.
I can't see what that is.
You would still laugh randomly. Oh, this is fantastic. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
We're going to have a nice poker night tonight. And the thing is, you know what's going to happen on poker? Yeah, we're going to have our cards and I'm going to be like, and he'll know what the cards are.
Yeah.
But thank you. Much appreciated. So this is, I'll include a link. There should be a link in our bio if you would like to have a look at these. And the page is Insta at yellow_panel. So thank you very much for these.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And yeah, so you're amongst a select few who actually have these. It's usually girls that I've dated.
Is this, so did you get into art as a way to impress the women?
No, I got into guitars as a way to impress women. I didn't get very far.
So what all do you do? Guitar, art, graphic novel?
Right now, the two things I'm trying to do are the trumpet.
Really?
Yeah.
I should have brought a trumpet. It would be fun.
I'm terrible at it. I only use it to annoy my
You
neighbors.
should have definitely brought it.
So this was back during COVID, right? And the kid upstairs was like smashing his football around the house, making an absolute nuisance of himself. And I was like, I don't like this very much. I need to do something out of spite. And at the same time, I was watching this show called Treme, which was about New Orleans recovering from
Yeah. Was
Katrina.
Yeah.
Great show from the same guys who made The Wire and all of that.
Yes.
And a large part of that was about all these brass musicians, jazz musicians, trumpeters, trombonists, all of that. I was like, well, I've never tried my hand at wind instruments, brass instruments. Why is that? And I was like, I love jazz. I should do this. So I bought a cheap trumpet on Amazon, which I later found out is not really meant to be played. It's meant to be a display piece.
Really? So
yeah.
they block you can't
No,
play.
so there's this valve at the side, right, which is used to get rid of the condensation.
Uh-huh.
And that thing was sealed.
Okay.
Yeah. So later, once the first wave of COVID ended, I actually signed up to a music school to get proper lessons, and went for classes. The second time I went around, my car got towed, so this got like even more expensive than I budgeted for. And then the second wave of lockdowns came in, and my instructor was this retired army guy who was in his 70s. So they said it's too unsafe, so we're going to move all the lessons online. So we did that for a while, and I realized I was really not getting very much out of the lessons because I already had the notation that he made me play. So we reached an amicable agreement that I would just try and do this on my own. And yeah, and did that for a while. Bothered the hell out of my neighbors, so it felt like payback.
So just a question, why trumpet of all instruments? I'll tell you why, because a lot of young guys who want to get into music, for them the gateway instrument is the guitar.
Right.
Because, we go to parties, there's girls around and everybody can sing along.
Yes.
The trumpet is like an odd man out, right? No, hey, let's sing around. Paw, paw, what is like the, who's going, you can't sing and you can't sing. Well, you play the
Please do the pom-pom.
No, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to repeat that again, but it's so out of place in a normal party, right? I mean, no. So did you really have a passion to play the trumpet, or did you just see
I did just for myself, right? I was like, I want to play this instrument. I want to know what it's like to play this instrument. So I got into it, and I gotta tell you, it's the most beautiful sounding thing I've ever heard. Not the way I play it, and I'm sure anybody else in the audience would probably agree with that. But in terms of an instrument that has a beautiful sound and that can sound like almost any other brass instruments if played right, I don't think anything else comes close.
I always hated the trumpet because I grew up in Pune in an area called Aund Road, and there is the Khadki police station right here. Every day, 5 in the morning, there would be this person who would come out with his trumpet and go pa, 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 every single morning, and Sundays included, and there would be a parade.
Right.
I always thought, policemen were not. The policemen would line up. There would be a parade every morning in that Khadki station. I mean, why? And I used to hate that sound.
Yeah, maybe it's that sound. Maybe a different song would have worked for you.
This is a very irritating sound, but fair enough. So, okay, we stopped, I think, where you were in Cognizant.
Yes.
So, 9 years in Cognizant, you were in the intrapreneurial
I did that for about 2.5
years.
years. And
All
then I
right.
moved into core business development for banking services, which is mostly looking at tenders, RFP responses and stuff like that to solicit new business for Cognizant. And so I did that for about 3 years and then moved into digital strategy consulting, where I was more in terms of helping organizations navigate all the changing digital waters and set a direction for the future. I did that for about 3 years as well for a couple of clients of home visits. And then I moved into a core product management role, first in Cognizant and then now with Tata Omega.
What is product management? What do you do there?
It is one of those nebulous terms now because in order to attract attention, pretty much everything is product management. But to me, product management is building something that wasn't there before and how to do it.
Product management involves building, according to you.
Yes.
Okay.
To start from identifying a need and identifying what the facets of that need are. So what a solution to that need would look like, and then justifying whether that solution is worth developing, in terms of how do you look at KPIs and metrics, etc.
So I'm going to dig a little deep here. So how do you what are the steps normal product managers take for identifying, and what did you do?
So in my case, I'll talk about in my case versus what normal product managers do. A lot of times when you're working within a corporate setup, a lot of these steps are already done for you.
Okay.
So you're the guy who is given a goal or a problem and said that, okay, we need to do X, Y, Z.
Okay.
Figure out how to do it and figure out what your success factors are, what your exit criteria is, and all of those.
So the organization will know that most of my yes, we have a very professional setup here. Someone decided to not keep their phone on silent. Thank you. What was I saying? Yes, we have an organization that decides that, okay, for example, 60% of our population lives in villages and they are not able to access for this particular reason. So we need to create a product that can access this particular customer base. That could be a problem statement given to you.
Could be a problem statement.
And now what do you do from there?
Now I would start with, okay, what are the restrictions that they face? What are the constraints that they face? Maybe internet is not full enough, or there is a problem of awareness, etc. So pick one aspect of it. You form a hypothesis on what you need to do, and then you test that hypothesis maybe through a small scale model of some kind, and you see if that will work. You talk to people. Essentially come up with an idea that you can solutionize and take it to testing.
Sorry, it was the small scale model. Is that a prototype of what will actually be? So you've actually developed written code and created something, or it's just a...
Yes, something quick and dirty. I mean, it depends, right? Like
Okay.
if it's something to do on the software space or a SaaS kind of thing, it might be a pilot that will work for, say, 100 people.
Got it. Okay.
Right? And you're able to build something quick and dirty either through no-code platforms or repurposing something that already exists. And you're able to roll that out, post it somewhere, roll it out, see if people use it, what the feedback is.
Yes. It's like a screening of a movie.
Essentially that.
Okay.
And then you can, chip away at the rough edges, kind of make a better version of it and then put it out. And my part in all of this has been either gathering these inputs and coming up with requirements that a tech team can then work with, right? What you call user stories, acceptance criteria and things like that in the industry. And once they come back with, okay, here's the thing, then going through the testing cycles, user acceptance, all of these things, and then rolling it out, and then tracking the various metrics, KPIs that were designed to see that it's performing the way it should. And at some point of time, if I had continued in the same track, then I'd be like, okay, so this is not working. What do I need to do to make it work? Do I need to have, say, a marketing campaign or something else to bring the audience back?
Product management is a very sought after role. I myself know at least 5 to 10 people in my own circle who are desperate to break into product management. I'll give you their number later. But all of them, they're not able to explain what they mean by product management. You are the only person I've met who said it starts from the building phase. Most of these guys think that product management is, let's say ICICI Bank hires you. They have an iMobile app. Product management is you need to go in there, you need to grow the user base of the iMobile app.
It could be that, right? Like I said, product management has become this all-encompassing term.
What should someone do if they want to enter product management? What should their skill set look like?
Again, let me give this a second of thought, right? I think you need to be a generalist who is able to collate inputs from various different places and come up with a theory, a hypothesis that you can test, right?
So good with stats?
Stats is a great place to start.
Okay.
Good with numbers, analytics. You need to be really good with communication because you're going to be talking to a lot of different people from different skill sets and collating inputs and passing this on, documenting things, passing it on to say dev team, testers, and so on and so forth.
Being able to speak the coding language.
Yes.
Okay.
Not necessarily the coding language.
Logical.
It depends
Yeah.
on the organization. Because in some places, a product manager might be doing everything,
Okay.
right? Including designing test cases and doing a part of the engineering job as well, saying that this is what the architecture should look like and so on and so forth. In some other organizations who might have specialists doing each of those things. So the product manager is just writing functional stories, saying in English, this is what this should be doing. If a user comes and presses this button, a rabbit should jump out of this box. Okay, if you presses this button, a green rabbit should come and do something else, and so on and so forth in English, in functional terms. And how do you know that this is a success? Or a rabbit jumped out of the box, so therefore you know this is working as it's supposed to be working. You specify these things. And then you pass it on to an architect or an engineer who's like going to design this on the technical side of it and say that in order to make this happen, these are the 5 systems this needs to hit. And this is the way these systems will interact with each other. This message will go from here to here to here. And when this happens, rabbit comes out. And this rabbit is designed in such a way and so on and so forth. Or you're also talking to, say, a visual designer to see what this rabbit looks like. Is it a Van Gogh style kind of rabbit? Is it a realistic Pixar kind of rabbit? Does it have fur? Is it like Tintin? I don't know. I mean, like, what happens? Is it Ghibli? Whatever. So talking to all of these very different skill sets who all have their own language, so to speak, and you need to be able to communicate clearly with them. So I think the core skill of a good product manager is clear communication. It doesn't have to be fancy, but it has to get the message across.
So,
Stats, sorry, one last thing.
Yeah.
Stats, communication. The one thing I found that you did not say is tech knowledge.
Again, if you have an organization that has the tech knowledge, you just need to have enough knowledge to adequately communicate with them,
Interesting.
right?
Can a non-engineer become a product manager?
Yes, absolutely. I think a lot of the best product managers I know are non-engineers.
So an artist can become a product manager.
Easy.
So stats, decent communication skills, and able to understand how systems speak to each other.
Sure. And if the stats is not the technical stats in terms of like knowing, I don't know, the normal curve and stuff like that, right? Like, or the deep mathematics of statistics. It helps. I think it's such an eclectic field that everything that you know from wherever helps. Right? You might be able to bring in design principles from somewhere. You might even, I don't know, Bruce Lee's notions of Kung Fu. Yeah, it all comes in some way or the other.
would UI design come in this too? UI design extremely.
Assuming it's a customer-facing application.
So, here's my take, and obviously you may have your own idea. I think product managers are traditional IT project managers with a fresh coat of paint. Because if you see, follow me on this, I'm owning a product here, end to end. Previously, it used to be a project, end to end. I'm targeting this to clients. I've got the order, I'm pushing this out. Well, the clientele may be different, but you still trying to engineer something and get it out. Different jargon used to be used previously, right? You had all these Scrum, but the same kind of stuff is done here too. I mean, you're Agile, you have Scrum, you're still getting something out. The jargon is a little different, but the principles and procedures and the steps you follow, almost equal.
I will not completely disagree with you there.
No, disagree.
Yeah, the jargon changes, the principles changes. Earlier you were talking about waterfall, now we talk about agile. You talk about different ceremonies, and And yeah, ultimately the nature of the job is not different, right? You had to create something, you had to get it out, and you had to tell people it's working, it's not working, and make it work if it's
And all the test cases you were speaking of the same things which used to. I mean, the whole process is almost.
I don't think a lot of it has changed, right? But I think the way of organizing the work has changed, right? Yeah, and an IT project manager could do certain things. So, for instance, if you have a very core technical product where, say some say billing process in SAP or something like that, right? And I'm just putting an example here, which does not change the day-to-day life of a customer. Then yeah, maybe what you say is entirely accurate, right? Like a bunch of engineers get together and say, okay, we need to pass this to this, from here to here, this system to this system using an API, from here to here using, I don't know, a Kafka feed and so on and so forth. Completely done at the back end.
In everything you've said so far, you've said Van Gogh, you've said Ghibli, you've said Kafka. I mean, when you said generalist, you've literally expanded the definition of generalist. And would I? How much would you abuse me if I said that the product management, if anyone wants to be a product manager today, that is the most AI safe job you can do, and number two, it's the most industry agnostic job you can do.
Agree on the second.
I don't think he agrees on the essay.
I don't agree on the
It's not AI safe because you have to be so general. How will AI be this general?
as I said, if your role is to essentially set out what needs to be done,
Right?
okay, AI can do that for you. In fact, a lot of product managers I know use AI heavily to come up with user stories and a business requirement document and things like that. A lot of that is created very easily through ChatGPT.
Okay, I'm going to cut it here because, I think we need to distinguish the different roles, right? You have product manager and you have product owner, right? So the owner is the guy who gets the team together, runs the scrum calls. Did you do this? Did you do that? Did you do this?
The benefit of what's the scrum call?
This it's a call where everybody gets on and the owner tracks from each of
Scrum is
the.
that Rugby thing, right?
No.
Well, that's where the top.
Yeah. Like they would all hard.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a call where everyone in the whole chain gets together and gives their status on where they've done on each part of the whole chain. And then the product owner checks, okay, is this complete? Okay, so he can do that. No, she can do that. And so they get like a status of where the product is in their
Waterfall
whole
model.
journey. No, it's not waterfall. No. Is it what? I don't think people use the water. Oh, they may or they may not. Most.
The way you said, this is done, this is done, this is done. You even mimicked a waterfall. But okay, go ahead.
I don't think. So this program owner, right? So it's, in my opinion, is one level lower than the whole product manager who you mentioned, who looks at it really from a user perspective, right? He's the eyes of the user and the team. The product owner could get lost in the whole implementation nitty-gritty of this is being done as.
Honestly, I don't think the lines are very clear between a product owner and a product manager. It's again very organization specific. A lot of people would like that product manager tag. So even if they perform sort of a more day-to-day hands-on kind of role, which should ascribe to a product owner traditionally, they prefer to be known as a product manager.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't think there is a very clear distinction. There are certain things that have to happen on a daily basis. You have to track daily progress. And so we have these stand-up meetings, as they call them.
Yeah.
Where essentially, say you have a team of 7 developers and the idea is that you have a 15-minute meeting where each of them tells you, here's what I worked on, here's what I'm working on today, here's what is blocked and where I need your help to unblock this. And that's it. So everybody takes like 30 seconds to talk. You're done in 15 minutes. The idea is that if all of you are standing during this meeting around the water cooler or something, it wouldn't be uncomfortable to conclude this meeting in like that duration that you're comfortable standing and talking for. And then anything else that needs more detailed discussions that happens outside of this. So this is a daily thing that happens. And yeah, as you said, a product owner might be the one running this along with a scrum master. Again, very organization specific, how things are set out.
So the product owner, I think, is more likely.
Scrum Master is a technical certification.
Not a technical certification, it's like a project management.
PMP.
So the thing is, anyone can be a scrum master, right? The product owner could be the scrum master. A tech lead or architect could be the scrum master. It's basically the person who runs the process.
Do you need to be PMP certified or anything?
Not necessary. I mean,
Okay.
it helps. So controversial as this is, I think a lot of these certifications are useful to either tell clients that, look, I have the right people for this job, or when you're looking for a job for yourself to say that I am PMP certified, so I know what I'm talking about, right? But to do the job, I don't think you really need the certification.
Interesting. You both of you violently reacted when I said your job is AI safe. So why?
Frankly, I don't think any job is really AI safe unless it requires a very high level of human empathy that AI can't do right now.
Okay.
Right? Like something like, I don't know, doctors, nurses, or whatever. Right? But I think pretty much every other role, which is that creamy middle layer of people who can, come and do as they're told and leave, sort of a role, I think none of those are AI safe.
I would have assumed that coding is something AI can do. The use cases AI can do, but making sure the systems are talking to each other and making something that's for the client is something that you need a product manager for.
Possibly, I don't know. I think in the glide path of AI, that a lot
Wanna
of
get
that
that?
will be assumed as well.
It's like this whole tide is coming into the shore, and you have your feet dug deep into the beach, right? And when the tide goes out, are you going to be taken with the tide, or will you still be?
Would the both of you be excited or depressed if you were a student in today's world?
I think the answer lies somewhere in between. You have to be a little bit excited and a little bit fearful, because
Would you be excited or depressed if you were starting your career today?
If I was starting my career today, I think I would be excited. It's always the people who are kind of in the middle of the career who need to make a lot of changes, who have invested a lot of time learning.
Okay, let me then put you on that spot. You're 30 years old,
I am
right? No, let's say you're 30 years old, right? You're in the middle of you've been in the corporate world for about 10, when I was 30, which is not long ago, but when I was 30, I mean, 10 years in the work life, right? At least 10. So you've been 10 years in an industry, you're used to a way of working. AI is coming in. Today, you're 30 years old today. Are you scared?
No. So, if your organization does this right, it will start off by enabling tools that you can use to make your everyday job easier. And where you say that, okay, you know what, you look at these 10 reports, it takes you 5 hours a day to do this. And now I'm giving you this tool that can do this for you in three minutes, give you an insight, and then you can go and act on this insight. It makes your life easier. If you can start there, then I think that learning curve is a lot more palatable. But if you start with this whole fear mongering thing, like, you know what, in 6 months' time, I'm not going to need you at all, right? You need to figure out how to upskill yourself or something. Then it becomes very scary.
You are better at me at AI. If you were 30 years old today, which was a long time for you, would you be scared?
I told you, it's a mix of both, because at one end, something really exciting and trending is hitting you. But when I look at the other side of the coin, and I look at the number of people who are in the market looking for jobs, and I look at the fact that there's so much promise. There is a lot of promise today. AI is going to change everything. There will be more jobs created than they are destroyed. I just don't see enough evidence of that yet. Although everybody's echoing the same sound bites, I don't see that. I know something's coming, but how long do we have to wait? And where are those jobs coming from? Is there going to be a gold rush for that? There's just too many questions there. So it's a mix of both excitement as well as fear at the same time. I think that's
When we discussed this, I was telling him that in the 1930s, one of the biggest jobs in the US was horseshoe repairman. Right? They had horse-drawn carriages. A lot of people were horseshoe repairmen. So when the auto cycle was invented and automobiles started coming out, people thought, what's going to happen to all these horseshoe salesmen? And there was big fear-mongering at the time, and that, oh, we shouldn't allow this to come, let the horse carriages remain. But then they became mechanics. And that's what I keep telling him, that, man, the jobs are not going to go, they're just going to change. But even I'm starting to see that, no, that it looks like we don't need people as much as we used to.
just because you're getting agents.
Yeah,
Agents.
so my org uses agents. The org I used to work for uses agents. In fact, every time I make a call to customer service, I can barely speak to a person anymore. It's
Yeah.
always an agent.
I think what is different this time around is that the change is happening too fast, right? Like earlier, that switch from, say, horses to automobiles actually took a good 15, 20 years for everyone to say that, okay, we're done
Fair.
with the process. So there was actually enough time for a whole generation of people to finish out their productive career as, I don't know, blacksmiths who are making horseshoes, and for the next generation to come in as automotive mechanics. That's not happening now. Now it's like, you're here, tomorrow you need to switch to being a productive user of AI, not just a user of AI, right? Which, so when a company is like, I have a head count of 40 people doing something, tomorrow I'm only going to need 10 to do this because AI is going to do this much quicker for me. And those 30 people have to go out and find something else to do. And everywhere they go, their skills are essentially, they have to fit into the 10 that the next organization needs and the next organization, and so on and so forth. That's the scary part of AI for me.
So I'm going to follow this up. Since you've been to ISB and Krishna's been to an MBA too,
Symbiosis.
Symbiosis.
And MBA. I will slap you.
Symbiosis and ISB, both premier business schools.
Mine is better.
You learn so much in MBA, right? Financial accounting, management accounting. You learn about finance, tech, system design. For 1 year, you're almost waterboarded with this stuff. You're against very tight schedules. You have to walk around. You have to, middle of the night, you have to make presentations. Now, all that stuff, you can feed it into a generative AI model and can get it all out. When tomorrow's students, right, when they get hired by companies, are they supposed to know how to use Gen AI to get the same thing? That, oh wait, do you need 2 years worth of education? If the generative AI model is going to give you the same research you're learning from management schools, then question mark, value of MBA going forward is going to be compressed. Do you have to be taught how to use Gen AI to get all that? Or how much of this do we really need to know if you're eventually going to hive all of that out to the model in the end?
So I'll tell you something. Everything that Excel does for you today, there was a time when somebody actually had to learn how to do it, right? Like, okay, how do I find the average of this column of numbers? I have to add this. Now you can put a formula and get it done, right? But that still doesn't stop schools from teaching you what an average means. I think similarly with Gen AI, something can be done for you much faster, but you still need to know what to tell Gen AI to do, when to ask for that particular action, or how to analyze something. I think there is a lot that Gen AI, you have a tool which is very powerful, but you still need to be taught how and when to use that tool. And I think it may not be an MBA program that needs to do this, but that level of education is still needed. Will MBA programs have to evolve their curriculum? Yes, and they've always been evolving. Right, like a lot of the principles that were taught in the 60s and 70s may no longer be applicable now. In fact, we even saw case studies, right? Like you have a lot of these B schools that thrive on the Socratic method with case studies and discussion, all that. And I've had profs, I admit, like, yeah, this may not seem very relevant to you right now because this is not where the technology is. But there was a time when people used to do things this way. But the thought process on how to solve this kind of a problem is still relevant today, irrespective of what tools were used then and what are used now.
I love how much of a visionary you've become, that in case AI decides to take your job, you've already decided to start something new. You've become a baker. My eye has been on that.
I was wondering where this amazing, smell was just wafting through the air.
I've been looking at that every few minutes. Then I could segue into this.
Put it in the middle so you can lean forward and get some of the aroma.
He's actually baked this. It's a, what's it, I guess?
It's an experiment. It's a basic Basque cheesecake recipe, which I experimented.
It's a what?
A Basque.
Oh, I heard something else. So
And I added some, it's coffee and orange flavor.
Oh yeah, let's yeah. I'm just too tempted. Can you?
Yeah, this is again one of those things I started doing during COVID.
I'm actually going to sample one right now. Yeah, you have a career, bro.
No, there are plenty of people who are doing this. So,
What flavors did you add to this?
Coffee, it's cheese. There's a lot of cheese.
Orange also apparently.
Orange. There's orange.
So this is one of those things that kind of mellows over time. So if you keep it in the fridge for like a couple of days, then the orange gets a little stronger, etc.
He'll talk to you for 5
Can
minutes.
you like keep this? So while he gorges on that, thought experiment.
Go on.
You know, when we grew up, the first thing we had to learn in school is multiplication tables. 1 ones are 1, 1 twos are 2, 6 sevens are. And there are some things going forward where if you have kids, do they really need to know the multiplication tables? I mean, how long, how many times in life did you need to know 8 eights are 64? Do you? But we are, we have to know this, right? Because we take it for granted.
Very
Wait,
well.
hold on. Ironically, when ChatGPT, when the generative AI tools first came out, they couldn't do this because they were trained on data sets, not multiplication tables. Later on, they had to be trained with the multiplication tables to give them the answer. So apparently, the world could work very fine without the need for these tables, which we are told were important. You think we really need to know these basic, what we considered? So here's my bigger, what was basic yesterday, is it really mandatory today, or could it also be really optional?
I think you could reduce everything down to an optional thing as long as you have how to guide on how to use it, right? So logarithms, I remember those books,
Yes,
those
yes.
little
Yeah.
tiny numbers that we
Yeah.
had to use to.
Find the log table here.
We never knew what they were really. I mean,
And they were always to the base of 10.
right. And it took some advanced math. I mean, we were using log tables since I think the
Yeah.
8th or 9th standard or something. And in 11th or 12th,
You got the calculator.
not just the calculator, that's when I got this understanding of what those were. Right? This is essentially 10 raised to this number is the number that you're looking for. And so, when you multiply two numbers, two exponents, you can just add the exponents and so on and so forth, right? We learned to use logarithms without knowing the underlying.
Why? Yeah, why?
It's a tool that is useful at a certain time, and the understanding of how the tool works is not important at that time for most people.
Yeah, but it actually is. So guess what? I figured out why. I learned this from this YouTube channel called Number File. Have you heard of Number File?
No, go on.
So I've always wondered, why do we even need logarithmic tables? I mean, we do addition, multiplication, or what this log, and then anti-log, remember, right? So apparently back in the day when the scientists were calculating positions of the earth, moon, stars, and all these calculations involve large numbers with 7 or 8 positions, right, after a decimal point. And they had to multiply. So when you multiply two large numbers, it gets very large. So what they needed is a system where you can convert multiplication to addition, and that's where the log came in. So if you see, right, the large number, power of it becomes a decimal number, you add it, and then you anti-log it back into the big number. So it was meant for that, but you don't need that nowadays because you've got the calculator which can handle those large numbers. So I mean, this logic wasn't given to us when we learned logarithm. We were just, let's do this, why, we don't care. So now we know, but now we don't need to do that.
But strangely enough, a lot of things came out of that notion, right?
Such as?
So this was basically logarithms to the base 10, which was used for multiplication, etc. Then you got this whole idea of natural logarithms, E, and that related to a lot of other constants like Euler's formula connecting I, pi, and all of these things. And now that is like core to a lot of and I don't know what the hell I'm talking about here, but I know there's a grain of truth there, but that is the core of a lot of very complex math that is in vogue today. So what started with Napier's bones and logarithms to, to multiply large numbers, which we can do through digital electronics without going through that route, has spawned other things which is useful today. So maybe, why education still needs to cover these basics is it covers the path through which we uncover new things that we will need in future. And if we don't have the basics and we just trust blindly to an AI to do these things, maybe we as a human race will just lose the ability to come up with new ideas.
Agreed. So we have to declutter a bit of what we've learned to free up space for new stuff. So maybe that involves learning maybe 7 or 8 times tables, not all the way up to 12. maybe it does not involve us doing logarithms, learning how to do logs, but knowing why it existed.
Yeah.
So we could, take that space and time and explore other areas.
Absolutely. I think maybe we need to back away from the rote learning sort of thing where we say that, okay, here is this tool and here's how we use it, and focus more on why this tool exists and how you should use it or when you should use it. Throw back to what I was saying.
So I'm going to pick your brain as another topic. Do you think it's important for the next generation to learn how to use to learn how to write? You think writing is important? I mean, people are using tabs. I mean, they're typing. I mean, you don't need to write, do you?
I can only go by personal experience here, and I write everything down. I mean, I have a tablet, I have a laptop, I can type it, but I realize that until I write something down, I can't remember it, right? Like this act of committing muscular movement to this particular thought or this sound that I heard, my brain doesn't register it a lot of times. If I want to remember something 10 days from now, it helps that I actually wrote it down. I could have typed it, but I don't remember it as well as when I write stuff down. So I feel yes, people should learn to write, people should learn to draw, the next generation, even the current generation. That's my
Krishna, you're a philosopher cum journalist who writes a lot. What's your opinion on that?
I'll answer with another thought exercise. It's the year 1700s, and a newspaper boy is running past and he's yelling, "There's a time traveler who has accidentally come to our city. There's a time traveler who has accidentally come to our city." And everyone is, wow, 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 from which year? 2025. And okay, what happened? And they're all running, and this time traveler is there. He's dressed like us, jeans, boots, everything. And everyone's like, "Dude, amazing, welcome. How did you get here?" Like, "I have no idea how I got here. But welcome, good to see you. Come, tell us about the future." And he's telling them, we have internet, we have cakes, we have all these things, and fantastic. "Oh, okay. How does the internet work?" "Oh, how do you make a car?" "You went to Mars, right? How do you make a rocket?" "How did you know anything?" We used to Google. "Haven't you ever read anything yourself?" That's my thought exercise. If you are stuck in a situation where you don't have access to anything and you need to do something, you don't want to be caught with your pants down in those situations.
I wrote I want to be caught with the pants down and do times to kill.
And I think caught with our pants down is a good place to end. It was an absolute pleasure, Karthik, meeting you. And I think we've learned a few things. First of all, I don't think even he knew you were a graphic novel artist. He didn't mention that when we were discussing. But all the best to you. I love these. Thank you so much for these. I love these a lot, as you can see.
My pleasure.
Sorry, Mario. Tool that was. You were very engrossed in that logarithmic reasoning that time.
And I think in that you polished off half of what was there. More 32. You're supposed to be off sugar. What happened about that?
Tomorrow. Pineapple Podcast, episode in the books.
Thank you.
Thank you.